The central chapter in Capital, and the longest, is chapter 15. And chapter 15 is concerned with labour, the labour process in developed capitalist production, that is, in a capitalist workplace with a system of machinery. It is the case that what Marx has in mind is a system of machinery such as you had in the textile mills in England in his time, and which were producing things which had before been produced by hand and now produced them by machine, to a large extent by the machines mimicking what had been done by hand before. That is true. And there are things there which need to be reconsidered when you have most industries now probably produce things which were not produced at all before machine industry. Marx notes the existence of those branches in his day, branches of industry which didn't exist at all in the old forms, but he documents the fact that in his day those are marginal. The final thing I should say before going into the substance is that it is a myth that Marx thought that all the working class were factory workers of this sort. In fact, he looks at the census figures for England and he finds that the number of factory workers in modern factories in England in his time is much less than the number of domestic servants. And it's a significant but quite a small minority of the working class. And his concern is always for the working class as a whole, not just for these workers who are at the front line of the capitalist transformation of labour. How does the modern factory or modern office, it's much the same, transform labour? You have a workplace which is built around a system of machinery. And the difference between the system of machinery and the old tools is the worker basically fits into the machine rather than the worker using the tool. This was particularly striking in the heyday of what is now called Fordism, of production line work, where each job on the production line would be timed exactly, and it would take X minutes of labour to put the door on a car. And the way you did it was prescribed by management. This wasn't a skill handed down from one worker to their neighbour. It was a skill controlled and redefined and defined by management. Production line work there is less of it these days. Production lines more often tend to be automated. Work in that factory tends to be, it's more about controlling the process, checking the process, maintenance and so on. But still, even if it's changed in that way, the fundamental productive process is defined by the machine and the worker fits around it. Now, one thing what this means for the worker is the nature of work changes all the time. It's not like a worker producing watch hands by the same technology all the time, because the technology changes all the time. The worker needs a wide range of training, of skill, to be adaptable for many different jobs. And that element of it is a progressive element of the development of modern capitalist industry. As Marx puts it, it's a way in which that mode of production develops the material, the human, both the technological and the human material, for a new and a better mode of production. But in capitalist society, this takes the form, the change in technology takes the form of employment, jobs always being insecure, of a constant pressure of speed up to fit with the machines, of each particular job you do being very atomized and fragmented and separated from any meaning for you. The alienation of your product, of your labour from you is accentuated rather than diminished. So developed capitalist production tends to transform the working class, to transform the nature of labour. And it does that both in the way of making the burden of labour, the alienation of the production process from the worker, the alienation of the product from the worker, the extent to which the productive powers of the workers appear as productive powers of capital, making all that worse, but at the same time preparing the human and the technological conditions for a new mode of production. And so, as Marx put it, it also tends to generalise the opposition. It generalises the sway of capital, but it also generalises the opposition to capital.